Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Terry Hatcher, Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for NTT Data Services. We are based in Plano, Texas. Hopefully you've had a chance to get over to our booth, 3519, and if you don't know a lot about NTT Data, you can certainly find out more there. You can also talk to our digital human, and she'll tell you about NTT Data too. You can ask her, tell me about NTT Data. Or you can ask her, tell me about diversity, equity, and inclusion about NTT Data. So make sure you head on over there when you get a chance later on. I am a longtime NTT Data Services team member. My background is HR, and I've been in HR, I was there about 20 years, and I've been in the DEI space about 2 years, and it has been an exciting space. I have always had an affinity for people development and also engagement. And it's a perfect marriage in that that's a lot of what DEI is about, as well as other aspects. But I have found it fun and challenging because with many things with DEI, things are changing, just like with business all the time. And so it's challenging, but with challenges comes wisdom and growth. And so I have enjoyed the space. I enjoy collaborating with other leaders in the DEI space and beyond, and it has been a wonderful experience. So today, again, if you're not familiar with NTT Data, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of information. Just a taste.
Through the ages, there have been countless visionaries. The quiet heroes who imagined a brighter future and propelled their dreams into action behind the scenes. Like the 3 NASA engineers who solved the complex math problem that brought the astronauts back home safely. The Hollywood actor who in her spare time invented the technology that led to modern-day GPS. And the NTT Data quiet heroes of the present, the technologists who supported the frontline workers through the COVID pandemic. As this recent past has shown, we may not know what the future holds, but we know we cannot wait to act. That is why our people are urgently developing solutions to tomorrow's problems by harnessing the connected value of our clients and communities to ignite the ideas needed to build a future for all. With over 182,000 trusted experts across 80 countries, every day we quietly envision and deliver technological innovations that address the most pressing challenges of our age. At NTT Data, we ignite tomorrow, today.
And I'll tell you one other fun fact. NTT Data actually helped Las Vegas win the IDC Smart Cities Award for Public Safety with technology built by, of course, NTT Data. So here's an example of some of the technology. So as you all are moving around the city of Las Vegas, you might be able to notice some sensors, optical and sound sensors, that are looking at the way things are going on in the city to help keep all of the people of Las Vegas safe. And so as an example, if you've been there, so we see people moving around, but you can also see she's climbing, and it says at the bottom, there's an alarm, it's showing that there are people climbing on the sign. And that's not all that technology does, but as you move around the city, there are other things that help keep it safe, and I've mentioned this to a few people as I've been here this week. They noticed in an area of Las Vegas where a lot of people kept going down this particular street the wrong way. And they were wondering, why is that continuing to happen? But with sensors and the optical view, you don't have to keep dispatching authorities out there to see what's going on and to handle accidents. They're actually able to collect data and figure out why that's happening and then correct it, whether it's through signs or maybe they need to change the lines or whatever it is they need to do. But it's always the technology that's helping to keep the city safe. So I think that should help us all feel a little bit more comfortable because there are a lot of people here this week. So it's good to know that we've got some good technology behind us, keeping us safe. So as you're looking, let me go a little bit further. As you're looking at widening the aperture today, we're going to be talking about non-traditional pathways and sources for technology talent. Also looking at finding and building new pathways and collective impact for inclusive STEM access. And so as we go through and look at technology today, it's so important. It's an exciting time to work in the tech field because you've got all of this new cloud-first technology. You've got all that technology that's really continuing to, I think, transform the way that we work and do business in general. And so as we do that, we need to ensure that we're helping to give access to all people to this great technology and the careers in the technical space. And so how do we do that? How do we make sure that we are making this an inclusive space, a space where everyone can take part in a technology career? And the opportunities that come with that, because there's development, career paths, growth, all of that should be accessible to everyone. So we're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking a little bit about that and those technical pathways and how you can make sure that you are thinking about those non-traditional pathways to careers in tech. So what is a traditional pathway? Where do most of your hires come from? And so we've got Ashley and Jen. I would just like to hear, and you can just talk right into the microphone, if you're at a company or if you've been looking for a career opportunity, where are you looking? Where are you looking for top talent in the career space? And when you think about this, think about those that are new to the tech career. Maybe not new to working, but maybe they're new to coming into a career at tech. So we call this emerging tech talent. So where do you find that talent? You could just.
Thank you. Hi, so I'm actually considered emerging talent, and I would say the main place that I look is LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, okay, yep. So you're out there and looking on the internet, and that's a common place for anyone looking for a career in technology. Anyone at companies? Anyone in the talent acquisition space?
Yeah, we're hiring just now, and it's mostly computer science graduates and like people who have done crash course sort of things, like career-changing courses.
And where do you find them?
Where do we find them? Job postings, like online.
Online, okay, good, thank you. Anywhere else? Ashley, someone in the back? Right there. Thanks.
Thank you. For us, it's partnerships with community colleges, universities, and so tapping into that market where they don't actually know they want to come and work in engineering or technology.
Yeah, excellent point. They don't actually know. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's an excellent point. And so as you're thinking about, did we have someone else? Yes, go ahead.
Well, just following up on that, we have a similar approach where we reach out to the community colleges, the workforce boards as well, and we form partnerships to actually train the talent and then prepare them and bring them in as apprentices in digital, IT management, data, software engineering. Yeah.
Excellent point. We're going to come back to that, and I may have you speak a little bit more on that so we can hear how you're doing that. So those are traditional pathways. We're just thinking about what a lot of companies do when they're out looking for technical career talent, and especially those that are, again, early in their technical career. And so these are some of the areas, as you've mentioned, that you're looking at. And if you are yourself looking for a career in technology, these are some of the places that you may be going. However, as you can see here, there are some very crowded fishing holes when we're looking for technical talent. And Some of you may be familiar with a report that came out in the Tech Republic article published in May of 2020. And it came from SHL report showing that 10 of the US universities that produce the most staff for major technical companies. And there's a QR code here, so you're going to want to have your phones handy. I see some of you, you'll see these QR codes. So if you want to get to any of the data that we're talking about today, you can easily go back to that. But what this is showing is how many graduates are coming out of some of these universities that are looking for technical talent. And these are good-sized numbers. And a lot of these, when we talk about major companies that they're going to, it is the Amazons and the Microsofts, Facebook, Google, those types of places. And so lots of people are looking in major universities, looking for those students who maybe are in some type of technical career program or degree program. And you can see there are a lot of people looking that way, a lot of people fishing in that hole. And so what can we do to make sure that we're going to do things a little bit differently? And the reason being, a lot of these larger fishing holes may actually perpetuate a situation that you don't want as a company, because they don't have large, diverse pools of technical career talent. In fact, one report shows it's only about 19% coming out of women coming out of these STEM programs, 7% Black or African American, and I think it was even less than that, looking at Hispanics coming out of these programs. And so, point being, 8% Hispanic, 7 Black. And so that information is coming from our federal employment data in the US. Key being, if you're looking in those fishing holes, you're probably not going to get a diverse set of talent. And it's important because I'm sure as many companies, you are looking at a global area for your market. And that means you're looking at a very diverse market, diverse possibilities. For us, as an IT innovator, it's important because it drives our innovation. We need to be diverse. And we want to make sure that we have a group of employees that reflects the diverse communities that we serve globally. And so it's important that we're looking in some not so crowded fishing holes as we're going through our processes. And we'll hear a little bit more about that because we've got our Senior Vice President of Global Talent Acquisition here to talk a little bit about that. And hopefully, if you have questions, you'll engage with her even more after our presentation. So that's just a little bit of information here. And it's wonderful, I think, that as we're here at the All Builders Welcome, that you'll be able to interact with a lot of folks, get some ideas about some of these non-traditional pathways as well. So now let's talk about what a non-traditional pathway is. And really, that can look different for a lot of different companies. I mean, what's non-traditional for us may not be non-traditional for you, or what's non-traditional in one region of the world may not be so non-traditional in another part of the world. And so you want to be thinking about your particular situation and what makes sense. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of those ways that you can find non-traditional pathways that make sense for you. The other piece about this, and you can see we've got some listed here, the other piece about this is that as organizations, we're looking at non-traditional pathways for finding technical careers. The people out there looking for technical careers are coming from non-traditional pathways as well. And that's why it's important that we look beyond those crowded fishing holes. And so it could be that you have people coming with non-STEM majors, Maybe they have majors in business or sociology or finance, as you see here. Maybe they don't have a 4-year degree. Maybe they just have an associate's degree, or maybe they have a certification with some experience. But these are the places that you can look, because not to say stellar talent is not coming out of those large universities, but it's not the only place it's coming from. And to the point made earlier, you can develop your own. So as you look at some of these non-traditional pathways, again, lesser known colleges and universities, we talked about community colleges, local colleges, schools that can cater to underrepresented groups, organizations that train for technical careers. So some of the things that we've been talking about. So those are examples of non-traditional pathways. So we're actually at one of the smaller fishing holes. We have started a relationship with a small HBCU, or historically black college or university. And you can see here that the HBUs, as it says here, have produced the majority of black college graduates in the fields of STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, medicine, law, doctoral programs. And so you have all of these schools here, and there's your QR code over there. So if you want to know where all this information is, and there's more information that you may be interested in. But these are some of the schools that we began to look at, and we've mapped where these schools are here, and we took that map and we laid it over where our hub cities are at NTT Data. And so we can tell where we may want to go and partner based on how close we are to some of those historically black colleges and universities. And then we also went to our employee resource group for Blacks and African Americans called Thrive, and said, well, can you help us? We want to develop relationships with these schools. And of course, the wonderful thing is that we have a lot of employees that went to historically black colleges and universities, Clark Atlanta University grad, right here, and they were more than happy to help. And some of them, they lived in these areas, some of them were graduates, and so they are now ambassadors to some of these schools, and they're helping to build those relationships. And some of them are quite small schools. So when we talk again about a smaller fishing hole, it truly is a smaller fishing hole. But in some cases, it's wonderful because we have some of those fishing holes that are like right in our backyard to where some of our major offices are, in fact, our headquarters. And so we'll talk a little bit about a relationship that we started with a small HBCU. And there are, by the way, there are a lot of them. When you saw on that map, you saw the few that were listed there. There are actually 107 HBCUs. So lots of places to look, as well as lots of other organizations that cater to underrepresented groups or those groups that are in the minority, like persons with disabilities. And so lots of places for you to look. This is just one example. So based on where you are, what your type of business is, you can look at some of these non-traditional pathways. So in addition to that, again, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our story. And as I said, this is a small HBCU. We became part of that school's corporate work program. And we had been in the program, I think, about 4 years. Our previous CEO actually learned about the program from the city's mayor. And since then, we've been working with them. And then fast forward, now I am the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. I want to know more about the program. And so I'm sitting down with the program owner, the person who's been running this program for a while, and I start to ask questions, how long have we been in this program? He said, well, about 4 years, okay. How many people have gone through the program? How many students? He said, 19, okay. And how many have we hired? And he said, well, none. Wait, what? We haven't hired any? No, we haven't hired any of them. Well, why are we in this relationship then if we are not actually hiring the graduates that we've had as interns? Well, one thing is, it's not like we're bringing in large groups of students every year. We actually, in this program, the way it works, they come in as sophomores, and we work with them and can bring them back as interns every year, all the way up through graduation, which to me says all the more reason why they ought to be ready to work for us when they're done. Why aren't we hiring them? And I say part of that because I think with a lot of things that have been going on over the last couple of years, and there has truly been more of a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, a lot of companies are partnering with organizations and schools and in hopes of helping them and providing them with corporate work experience, providing them with corporate exposure. But I did not want this to be a relationship where we just check the box, because it's not about that. It's about, are we actually making a difference in helping these students and giving them a pathway to STEM career, to technical careers in STEM areas? And keeping in mind, this school didn't even have an IT degree program at all. No degrees in IT. There were students that we had in business administration, sociology, HR. They do have a math degree that you can get, but nothing in what you would consider the traditional, STEM background or STEM degree. And so that was interesting, but not stopping us at all. So as we're going through this, again, now that I'm the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, but even before then, I had the opportunity to get one of the interns to work in my area. Great resource, confident, inquisitive, takes initiative, and I thought, this is a great resource. And he says to me one day, well, I'd like for you to see something. I'm like, okay. He made a video as part of an assignment for one of his courses. And he made it about his relationship, his work through the corporate work program with NTT Data, which is wonderful. He had wonderful things to say about his relationships he'd made, about the culture at our company, and then he talked about the corporate work program, and there were areas for improvement, not only for the school in that program, but also on our part as a partner. Long story short, I hired that person, and he's now helping us to revamp that entire program. Because we felt, again, it's not just about checking the box, we've got to be actually making a tangible difference for these students when they come in. We are also actually meeting, and this is our second meeting, with the president and leadership within the school, because we really want to take this program even further and help them do that. And they have visions for it, as do we. But again, this is a partnership we built right near one of our hub cities. It's a close relationship, which makes it in some ways easy to maintain, because we can just hop in the car and the train, go over there, sit down, have a conversation. How can we help each other? And so we are really excited about bringing in this next group from the college in January and taking them through what's now the new program and working to make sure that we can help them understand how they can have a pathway into a tech career. We not only hired the person that I brought into my team, we hired a couple of other students as well. And they were really funny, because one said, I had no idea I had the skills to be hired by a tech company. And so as he came in and we were like, oh, we knew who these people were, but we knew we had to get them in front of these hiring managers, which we did. And the hiring managers were like, oh my gosh, we have to hire this person right now. In fact, out of the two people, one of the people they actually created a position for, because they're like, we want this person here. So we were so happy with that outcome and where we believe we can take this program. But it's not only a non-traditional pathway in where we're looking, it's not a large school, none of the things you might think of when you think of, okay, I'm looking for tech talent, but it was also different for the students themselves because they don't come from the traditional pathway themselves. But we wanted them to know, absolutely, you can have a tech career. And so now they're going back to the students at the school and helping them understand you can have a tech career. So they're communicating with them and they're making more of a difference by voicing how this has worked for them. So we are really excited about that. We're proud of that and really excited about where it's going to go in the future. So that's just an example of our relationship, and this gives you a picture of, and other companies are working with this school as well. So some of the grads that have come out of that program. So it's been fun. So with building a pathway, think about it too, that it's not just about our company, but also about how are we helping globally? What can we do? And are we helping not just us as a company, but how are we helping to make things better overall for the tech industry? And so we have always been looking back at the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These are just 3 of them that we feel we are making a difference in. And it just kind of keeps us guided in what we're doing. And I gave you the QR code here. If you're not familiar with that, absolutely go out there, take a look. And some of the areas, as I mentioned here, the 3 that we're looking at, quality education. So under that, when you go to the code, if you hover or click on the box, it'll tell you all the information about each of the goals. And so I recommend that you do that and just think about, what are you doing today and how are you aligning with any of these goals? So a quality education, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The corporate work program that we are part of is just one way we're helping to do that. Decent work and economic growth, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. And by, again, building these pathways, you're opening up pathways for tech careers for a more diverse group for all of the potential candidates and employees that you have out there. And so that's a really exciting area. And then this last one, because we are an innovative company, this last one, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. We're doing that when we bring diverse backgrounds and perspectives to the table, because again, innovation is fueled by diverse backgrounds, perspectives. That's what helps you, again, develop those solutions that are going to be applicable to a wider audience, which helps your market, helps your revenue when you are looking at a much larger market share through a more diverse lens. And so that's just a little bit about what you can, the impact that you're having when you're aligning yourself. And you may not even be thinking about that when you're doing some of these programs. And again, over the last couple of years, a lot of companies have been a lot more excited about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but they may not think of it in terms of the global impact that they can have. And you really can when we start to think about this, and we're going to talk a little bit later about collective impact, but you can have a much larger impact than you think. And you don't have to start big. You can start with a small school, just like we did, a small organization, small relationship. But when you're actually, you can see the tangible difference and you can see a result that's working, then you know collectively, if we were to all do this, if lots of major companies were to come together and do this, lots of companies in general, we could have a global impact. And so with that, I'm going to have Jen Henderson come up, and she's going to talk a little bit more about are non-traditional pathways and things that we're doing at NTT Data. And then later on, be thinking about it, because we're going to ask you all for some ideas as well. Jen?
Thanks, Terry. Hi, I'm Jen. Welcome. Happy to be here with Terry. You go to the next slide. So building those non-traditional pathways, it sounds like a few of you have already started on that or already on your way, which is great. I've got a few examples of things that we've been doing, and these are things that, quite honestly, I look back and I think it took time, didn't take a lot of budget. So these are very much doable things that you can do as an organization or encourage the organization that you work for to do. So, we think about emerging talent programs, and we've talked, Terry's talked a little bit about that, and what traditional emerging talent, your standard 4-year computer science, information technology degree, absolutely should always be a part of your strategy. And I think a lot of companies have that nailed down, right? Where we need to expand is emerging talent outside of that, right? So how many folks here are part of the AWS All Builders Grant? Okay, excellent. That's where you start. Start hiring these folks right here. Interact, network with them all this week. I hope you've been doing that. I hope y'all have gotten lots of connections. But that's one place where you can start. And other companies like AWS have these types of programs and certification programs. Tap into those as well. Create your own boot camps within your company. If you've got a talent development training organization, even if it's one person, doesn't matter how big or small your organization is, build those boot camps from within. One thing that you can do, tapping into, say, the AWS All Builders Grant talent, they're going to have a great base skill set, right? They're learning that from AWS. There may be a few things that they need to learn before you can get them on their first project. That's a boot camp that you can put together. It may only take a few weeks, right? You can also, work with your local community colleges. I know a gentleman talked about that earlier. Your community college network, it's a great source for talent, and it is untapped, for sure. I have an example, like a lot of your community college networks will apply for grants, federal grants, that give them the funding to create technology certification programs that your company, your organization can partner with. You can help influence the curriculum and then work to hire those resources, that talent, as they wrap up those certifications. I know Montgomery County in Maryland is one that always comes to mind. They are part of the America's Promise Grant. It's a federal grant. They have certifications in infrastructure as well as multiple development languages. So again, that's just one example in one part of the United States. You can be looking global for those types of partnerships for sure. I also recommend, thinking about not just your community colleges, but there are a lot of organizations today around the globe that focus on training underrepresented talent, helping folks get that leg up to learn that technology career is for them. So for instance, we're connected with an organization called Perscalis. They're in the US, but they're in every major city in the US, right? And they're training tons of talent in multiple technologies. I think it's a great place if you're looking to kind of start that conversation. That's one source you can look at, and there are multiple other organizations just like them. Thinking about your employee resource groups. So employee resource groups, if you work for a company that has them, excellent. If your company doesn't, start them. They are amazing. Now, coming from the talent acquisition perspective, I always recommend that your recruiters, whether your team is 500 or 3, get connected to your ERGs, partner with that leadership from that team, get involved, be part of the conversation, and more importantly, from a talent acquisition and recruitment perspective, and building those non-traditional pathways, partner around your employee referral program. So sit down with the leaders of your ERGs, walk through what's your employee referral workflow? How do you submit a referral? How do you get feedback? Get their feedback, make them part of the conversation. Your employee referral program will get better, will be more streamlined, and you'll get better referrals as well. You'll increase the number of referrals, and you're tapping into talent that you may not have tapped into previously. So again, I can't stress that enough. But then a playbook. So this is something that I'm very proud that my team did, and they did this on their own. They recognized that we have, I've got there's over 500 recruiting talent acquisition resources on our global team. It's a lot of folks, and it ranges from the very experienced recruiter to recruiters who just came through our recruiting academy this year. So the playbook is set up for everyone. You've got recruiters who've been doing this for years. They got to change too. We need to teach our old dogs new tricks, as they say. Myself was one of them. A recruiter for more than 20 years. And it's simple things like change your bowling search, add certain terminology into your search structure to ensure that you are capturing the right talent. And that's what our playbook does. So the playbook is something that a more seasoned recruiter, all the way down to a junior, just starting their career recruiter, can go through and incorporate these strategies around sourcing, networking, connecting, and incorporate these things so it becomes the everyday standard. It's not a special project that you're doing. It's every day. This is part of how you're recruiting and pulling in a more diverse group of talent. And then engage with a consultative partner. Admit we all don't know everything, and sometimes we need help. And I know it can be hard. And sometimes, you just have to go to an outside support. And there are many NGOs or non-government organizations. So the term is NGO. It's something that you say more often than non-government organization. But to give you an example of one that you know about, like the American Red Cross, the Salvation Army, those are examples of NGOs that focus in specific areas. There are many today that focus on DEI and helping companies and organizations build out those strategies. But they do more. They also ensure that accessibility. So that's a question you also have to ask as you're looking at building your talent pool with more diverse and folks coming through non-traditional pathways. Is your company ready? So that's where these NGOs can come in and help make sure that you are ready. Is it your physical space, your digital space, the environment, training staff to ensure that it is accessible for everyone. So that would be my advice, is if you can, talk to an NGO. Many of them will work with you. Some do charge, but we actually work with one in India today, and it has really helped us in ensuring that our staff feel welcome, and it's a much more inclusive environment. So again, I ask the question, as you're looking at these non-traditional pathways, are you ready? And ensure that you are. And it'll be a great experience, not only for your organization, for the employees of your organization. And you'll see things like a retention and other trends that you'll be able to track long term. And just one last note, if anybody's ever interested in connecting to share ideas and network, please feel free to catch me after the session. Happy to do that. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you, Jen. Yes, I also cannot stress enough being prepared, because as you work to bring in diverse groups, that doesn't mean that your company is ready. And especially as you're looking for persons with disabilities, that took quite a doing. You may have to relook at your policies. I mean, do you have an accessibility policy? And do you have facilities that are ready for that? Do you have the people at the facilities trained and ready to assist persons with disabilities? Same thing with veterans, and what type of support are they going to need within their daily work? And so when you start to do this, those non-governmental organizations, they can help with that, because one of the things I say, we've been asked, and I say we, you'll hear one of my partners in just a moment, they ask us as diversity officers, as leading those areas in our companies, what's your superpower? And I tell them my superpower is humility, because I know I don't know everything. And so as Jen talks about getting ready to make your workforce, preparing your workforce for a more diverse group, we didn't know what we didn't know. You can't know everything, but these organizations that you pair with, they can help you. They can provide all of that information, other resources that you maybe didn't even know about. And so don't think that when you are approaching things like this as a company that you have to do it on your own. There are people, and as Jen said, some of them don't cost anything. They will share that information, share those resources with you. And so you can get out there, partner with them, and get prepared. And that helps make sure that as you're going through taking all of these steps, that you're going to be successful as you go through it. Everything won't be perfect, but you know you have taken some of those steps that are going to help ensure the success. So again, thank you, Jen. So as we get ready to talk beyond non-traditional pathways of what we're doing as individual companies or personally, it's also good to look at, again, how you can do this collectively, because we can have such a larger impact when we're looking at how we can make inclusive access to STEM careers, to technical careers, much wider. We can do something on our own, but we can do a lot more if we're doing it collectively. And so we're going to hear now from a partner of mine that I work with as part of the Alliance for Global Inclusion. We're going to hear from Dawn Jones. Dawn is Intel's Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer and VP of Social Impact. So let's hear from Dawn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dawn Jones, Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer and Vice President of Social Impact at Intel Corporation. I'm really happy to join your session today to share a little bit about our work with the Alliance for Global Inclusion, specifically in the area of STEM readiness and access. I'll start with a little bit of background on what the Alliance for Global Inclusion really is. We know in 2020, a lot of companies and organizations started to change and become more assertive, if you will, on their DE&I work, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Alliance members looked at that as an opportunity to do something different. We know individually we all did great things in our business, but what could we do together? So the 5 founding members of the Alliance, which launched in April 2021, were Dell, NASDAQ, Intel, NTT Data, and Snap Inc. And we got together and thought about what could we do as a collective to drive shared value and collective impact across the industry. We partnered with an organization called Seramount to commission a global index survey around inclusion. So we could understand what are some of the things that companies are grappling with that we could then tackle as an industry and hopefully accelerate and drive better progress in this space. So we landed on 4 items. One was inclusive language. The other was leadership representation. We also have AI and bias in product development and design, as well as STEM readiness in under-resourced communities. We know that there's a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things in this space, but these are the 4 things that came out of the survey that we wanted to make sure that we were continuing to foster and support and actually drive better outcomes in this space. Since the initial launch, we're now 14 companies strong. And just to give you a little flavor of how large we are, we have over 800,000 employees collectively, around $310 billion in revenue, and about 1,100 locations. So we do feel like we have an opportunity to start making an impact, a greater impact, a more accelerated impact with this alliance model, because we are all together working on the same goals to drive better outcomes and have better results, frankly. So when we started to look at, the STEM readiness piece specifically, we felt like there was a lot of opportunity looking at our current state and what the new future of the workforce is going to bring. And are we really focusing our resources on places where the talent sits, where the talent lives, in the talent's communities, And there's communities all over the world. So we thought this is a great opportunity to dive a little bit deeper and create solutions that fit the workforce and the talent of the future. We recently had a convening with all of our CEOs because that's one of the commitments of joining the Alliance. And they all agreed that our companies will focus on securing talent from non-traditional pathways. So one of the things that we're doing as a collective is really starting to assess what are those non-traditional pathways. Are they, community colleges versus a four-year college? Are they upskilling and reskilling programs? Because we know we have a lot of opportunity in those spaces, especially in underserved and under-resourced communities. Just a quick example of what Intel is doing in one of these spaces. We've launched an AI for Youth program, which provides AI curriculum and resources currently to over 100,000 high school and vocational students in 10 countries. Our aspiration is by 2030, we would have served 30 countries, over 30 million people, and over 300,000 institutions with AI solutions, because we know that this is the way of the future when it comes to tech. All of our Alliance members are committed to investing in STEM, and we are committed to partnering to look at innovative and new ways that STEM investment can go further, reach more people, and provide more opportunities. So as you go through the session today, I hope you get a lot out of it. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there with you today, but I thank you for giving me the time to just have a conversation about this very important piece of work. And if I were to leave you with one piece of advice, go out and do something wonderful, as one of our Intel founders used to say. Thank you and have a great day.
We are very proud members, NTT Data, as a founding member of the Alliance for Global Inclusion. And that's the QR code if you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in learning about how we partnered with Saramount for the index. But it's also a great way if you are looking at your programs and how you can improve your programs. You can go out there, get information, find out what within the index are the key areas where companies feel like they have to achieve certain goals in those areas in order to have that inclusive work environment that produces those innovative solutions that we're all looking for. The second QR code is to the ACT report. Anybody familiar? Anybody heard of the ACT report? The ACT report is Action to Catalyze Tech. And it was created from the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer and her team in SNAP, Inc. Lots of research went into this. They partnered with the Aspen Institute as just one of their partners. But excellent resource if you are, whatever stage you're in your D&I journey, it's a great place to start, because she also had in there kind of a checklist, if you will, that says, if you're looking to have systemic change within your company and then also have that impact externally, here are the things that you should be looking at. And so, again, if you have not gone out and if you haven't heard of any of that, just great resources for you to go out and just to read through. That ACT report is a lot of information in there. I forget how many, it's like 85 pages or something like that. So when you have some time, and I absolutely recommend that you make some time, go out there and take a look at that and also learn more about the Alliance. We would love to have more companies join the Alliance. So that might be something that you're interested in going out there to take a look at and joining. And we'd love to have you just ask for more information. Happy to have you join a meeting if you want to ask questions. All the CDIOs, Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officers, we get together every month and we talk about all those things that Dawn talked about and more. But as she said, one of the most important pieces is that we brought all of our CEOs together, and they did make this commitment to more inclusive STEM access. And so you can see that's a huge commitment that Intel is making. And all of the companies are doing the same. They're looking at how they can make sure they set those goals and have that impact. And collectively, as we do this, we know that we can have a great impact globally. And so with that, oh, it's asking me if I want to. There's a call to action. And you thought you'd get out without any homework, but not going to happen. What we want to make sure is that when you leave here, there are a few things that you consider. One being, how are you going to find and create your own non-traditional pathways? What are some places that you can look? And it's okay if you start small. If you're having great impact with smaller numbers, that's okay. Don't think, you don't have to be in Intel where you're hitting 100,000 people. Everyone won't be there, but you can start somewhere. And so think about what you can do, what pathways, what's close to where you are, if that makes sense. And then set goals based on that. Based on whatever non-traditional pathways you come up with, you might need to partner with people, set your goals, and then consider being part of a collective action. You might be a smaller company, you might be a larger company. We have companies in the Alliance that are all sizes. There are some big ones, as you know, but you can increase your impact collectively. And we are looking to have an impact on the entire tech industry. So not just for our companies internally, but for the entire tech industry. So you'll want to think about what you can do there, and it's okay if you start small. So finally, we are working together to ignite tomorrow's careers today. And so we want you to now help us with, what do you think are some non-traditional pathways that you're aware of, or maybe you yourself are a non-traditional pathway to a tech career, and we'd love to hear about that. We had great conversations, and some of you are from the grant program, and Jen said, start there. If you're looking for great tech talent, you can start right there. We had great conversations with a lot of people coming into their tech careers from non-traditional pathways. Many of the grant participants came from non-traditional pathways. No degree, some finished high school later, some had gone on and done other things and then came into a tech career much later. I'm one of those people. I started out, I was a teacher, and then I came into a tech career and managed a help desk and went into management, but eventually from management moved into, because as I said, I always had this affinity for people and development, so then I went into more of a human resources slant and have just kind of continued there. But you never know where it's going to take you. And so we had so many terrific stories that were shared with us about folks coming into technical careers in a completely different path. Again, didn't go to the large school, didn't have a STEM degree. They self-taught, a lot of them were self-taught, and AWS has helped do that. Again, can be a great partner for that. But you can think about those things and organizations on how you can develop non-traditional pathways. So with that, I'm going to stop. And anything anyone